Park Hannah rubbed her tired eyes as she stared at the flickering screen in the Luna Communications Center. It was her third double shift this week, but something about this signal made her forget her exhaustion. The weak transmission had been bouncing around space for months before reaching Earth's outer detection grid. "Admiral, you need to see this," she called out, her voice cutting through the quiet hum of the control room. Admiral Kim Do-yeon walked over, his coffee still steaming in the low-gravity environment of the lunar base. The message played again, crackling with static from its long journey across the void. The Zilani language was soft, almost musical, but the desperation in the speaker's voice needed no translation. Park Hannah's computer had already broken down the key phrases. Under siege, population dying. Unknown aggressors. Kim Do-yeon knew the Zilani well from diplomatic files. They were healers, not fighters. Their entire civilization was built around medicine and peaceful research. They had no armies, no weapons, barely even a police force. If someone was attacking them, they had no way to defend themselves. "How far is their system?" the Admiral asked, though he already suspected the answer would complicate everything. 200 light-years, sir. That's a 3-week journey, even with our fastest ships. The Admiral stared at the star charts displayed on the wall. Every other species in the galaxy still saw humans as dangerous newcomers from a death world. Earth's gravity was too strong, its weather too violent, its animals too deadly. Most aliens believed humans were naturally aggressive because they had to be, just to survive on their home planet. The Galactic Council had made their position clear many times. Humans should stay in their own corner of space and stop interfering in alien affairs. Every time Earth tried to help with galactic problems, other species accused them of trying to expand their territory or gain military advantages. But the Zilani were dying while politicians argued about proper procedures and jurisdiction. Kim Do-yeon had served in the Terran Navy for 30 years, and he knew that sometimes doing the right thing meant ignoring the rules completely. The 12 ships of the human fleet stretched across space like a steel arrow aimed at the heart of the galaxy. Admiral Kim Do-yeon stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching stars blur into lines as they jumped through hyperspace. Each jump brought them closer to the Zilani system, but also further from any hope of backup or support. "Jump complete, sir," announced the navigation officer. "That's jump number 15. 6 more to go." The hyperspace jumps were taking their toll on both ships and crew. Human technology was still newer than most alien designs, and pushing their engines this hard for 3 weeks straight was risky. In the engine rooms, technicians worked around the clock to keep the reactors stable, but it was the messages from Zilani space that really worried everyone. Each day brought new transmissions, and each one was worse than the last. The latest message had come from a Zilani doctor hiding in an underground hospital. "The air itself is killing us," the translated message said. "Whatever these creatures are doing to our atmosphere, our people can't breathe. The children are dying first. We have maybe days left before." The transmission had cut off there, leaving everyone on the bridge in heavy silence. Captain Yoon Jae-in, of the destroyer, called from his ship with updates that made things even more frustrating. His communications team had been monitoring alien diplomatic channels, and what they found was disgusting. "Admiral, you're not going to believe this," Yoon reported over the secure channel. "The Corellians are running betting pools on whether we'll arrive in time. The Altarians are taking bets on how badly we'll mess up the situation when we get there." "What kind of odds are they giving?" asked Commander Choi So-yang, her voice tight with anger. 3-1 against us, arriving before the Zilani population collapses. 5-1 that will somehow make things worse through what they call typical Deathworlder violence. Admiral Kim felt his jaw clench. While alien politicians gambled on the deaths of innocent people, his crews were pushing their ships to the breaking point, trying to reach them in time. The irony wasn't lost on him that the so-called civilized species were treating this like entertainment. while the violent humans risked everything to help strangers. "Let them bet," he said quietly. "We'll show them what humans really do when people are dying." The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zilani system, and what they saw made even veteran spacers feel sick. The beautiful blue-green world that had once been home to 40 million peaceful beings was now wrapped in sickly yellow clouds. Where orbital stations should have been floating, only twisted metal debris drifted in the void. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Commander Oh Sung-min from his position at the sensor station. His screens showed readings that didn't make sense at first glance. "Admiral, those aren't normal ships around the planet." Admiral Kim Do-yeon studied the tactical display with growing horror. Massive vessels, each the size of a city, clung to the planet's atmosphere like giant ticks feeding on blood. They were clearly alive in some way, pulsing with organic rhythms as they pumped unknown chemicals into the air below. "Sir, I'm picking up faint signals from the surface," reported the communications officer. "It's the Zilani emergency frequency, but the transmission is very weak." The message that came through was heartbreaking. A Zilani voice, barely audible through static, spoke in broken universal standard. "Anyone, please. We are in the deep places now. The air above kills us. Maybe 2,000 of us left in the old mining tunnels. The sky creatures, they change everything. Our children cannot breathe what our world becomes." Commander Choi Soyoung pointed at her tactical screen. "Admiral, we have movement. Those organic ships are launching smaller craft. Looks like they spotted us." The smaller vessels swarmed toward the human fleet like angry wasps. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Each one was a living thing, all curves and flowing lines instead of the straight edges humans used in their ship designs. They moved together in perfect coordination, as if controlled by a single mind. "Incoming transmission," announced the communications officer. The voice that came through the speakers was unlike anything the humans had heard before. It sounded like multiple voices speaking at once, creating an unsettling harmony. "Unknown vessels, you enter feeding territory of the Vorthot Collective. Withdraw immediately or face consumption. The expired species below has been claimed. Their world transforms to serve the swarm." Admiral Kim looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They had traveled 3 weeks through dangerous space to reach this dying world. They weren't about to turn around now. "All ships, battle stations," he ordered calmly. Admiral Kim Do-yeon straightened his uniform and nodded to the communications officer. "Open a channel to the Vorthok fleet. Let's see if we can solve this without bloodshed." The response came immediately. That same disturbing chorus of voices speaking as one. "We acknowledge the small flesh ships from the distant spiral arm. Your species designation is ... humans, yes. From the overcrowded gravity trap world, we have heard stories." "Then you know we're here to help." "The Zilani," Kim replied calmly. "We're asking you to stop your attack and withdraw from this system." The alien laughter that came through the speakers was like breaking glass mixed with rustling leaves. "Help. Your species crawls on a world so hostile that most beings would die within hours. Yet you call yourselves helpers. You are predators pretending to be healers." Commander Choi Soyoung looked up from her tactical display and shook her head. The Vorthok ships were still approaching in perfect formation, showing no signs of slowing down. The alien voice continued with obvious amusement. "We offered generous terms to softworlders playing at war. Take your tiny fleet and leave. The expired species below has already been claimed by the collective. Their transformation serves the greater swarm. You may depart with full fuel and safe passage through our territory." Expired species? Kim felt his temper rising. Those are living people down there. Families with children. Inefficient organisms scheduled for recycling. Their world will serve better purposes under collective management. This is final offer. accept safe passage, or face consumption like the failed species below. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Every officer waited for their admiral's response. Kim looked at the tactical display showing the dying world below, then at the swarming enemy ships that outnumbered them 50-1. He keyed the communication system with steady hands. When he spoke, his voice was calm, but carried the weight of absolute conviction. Count Rover, you have exactly 10 minutes to begin evacuating this system. After that, we're going to show you what Deathworlders actually do when someone threatens our friends. The alien voices merged into what sounded like surprised, chittering, primitive bluffing tactics. Your 12 vessels against our magnificent swarm. We have consumed civilizations that spanned star systems. 9 minutes and 30 seconds, Kim replied, and cut the channel. The 10 minutes passed in tense silence. Then the Vorthok swarm attacked like a living wave crashing against the human fleet. Their bioships moved in perfect unison, each one knowing exactly where the others would be. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, but the humans didn't fight like any enemy the Vorthok had faced before. Captain Song Minji commanded 3 destroyers on the fleet's left flank, instead of meeting the enemy head-on, like civilized species did. She led her ships in a diving attack that used the planet's gravity to accelerate them to incredible speeds. Her vessels screamed past the Vorthok formation, firing everything they had, then slingshot around the planet's moon to come back for another pass. This is Falcon Squadron, she reported over the comm. We just took out 12 of their bioships in that run. They're trying to reform, but they can't figure out where we're coming from next. The Vorthok collective mind was struggling. They were used to fighting enemies who followed predictable patterns, species that fought with honor and formation discipline. But humans fought like wild animals, each ship captain making split-second decisions without waiting for orders from above. Commander Choi So-yang spotted the weakness first. Admiral, watch their response time when we change tactics. They're all connected mentally, right? So when one group changes direction, they all have to process that information through their hive mind. Meaning what? Kim asked, watching his tactical display as human ships darted between the enemy, like sharks in a feeding frenzy. Meaning we can overload their communication system. If every human ship does something different at the same time, their collective brain can't keep up. Kim smiled grimly. All ships, this is Admiral Kim. Abandon formation discipline. Fight however you want. Make it up as you go along. The result was chaos that somehow worked perfectly. Each human captain became unpredictable, using debris from destroyed Zilani stations as shields, hiding behind asteroids, even ramming smaller Vorthok vessels when ammunition ran low. The aliens' perfect coordination became a liability as their hive mind tried to track 12 different human tactics at once. Meanwhile, Major Nam-Hoon Woo was suiting up his Marines in the transport bay. Boys and girls, we're going down to that planet to pull some people out of hell. Hope everyone remembered to pack their breathing gear. The human dropships screamed through the poisonous yellow atmosphere of the Zilani homeworld, like falling meteors. Marine Sergeant Koung checked her environmental suit one last time as their transport shook from atmospheric turbulence. Through the small window, she could see the dead cities below. Their once bright towers now dark and covered in some kind of organic growth. 2 minutes to landing zone, called the pilot. Air is completely toxic down there. Your suits better work perfectly, because there's no breathable backup. Koung's squad had trained for hostile environments on Earth, underwater caves, volcanic regions, even the frozen wastelands of Antarctica. But this was different. This was a world that had been murdered and was being remade into something alien. The dropship touched down near what their sensors said was the strongest Solani life sign reading. The Marines moved out in formation, their boots crunching on What used to be a garden, but was now covered in strange, pulsing vegetation that seemed to watch them pass. "Sergeant, over here," called Private Huang Min-su. He was kneeling beside an opening in the ground that led to underground tunnels. Faint lights flickered in the darkness below. The team descended into the tunnel system, following emergency lighting that the Zalani had installed. What they found in the first chamber made even these hardened soldiers stop in shock. Dozens of Zalani civilians hung suspended in organic pods attached to the walls and ceiling. They were alive but unconscious, with alien organisms attached to their bodies. "What are those things?" whispered Private Zheng Soyan, her voice tight with disgust. Ko Yunji studied the scene with growing horror. The pods were clearly some kind of breeding chambers. The Vorthok weren't just killing the Zalani, they were using them as living nurseries for their young. "We're cutting them all loose," she ordered. "Start with the children." As they worked to free the captives, they heard movement deeper in the tunnels. Ko Yunji motioned for silence and listened carefully. Something was coming toward them, and it wasn't human or Zel-A-N-I. The Vorthok ground forces that emerged from the shadows had never fought humans before. They were used to prey that ran or hid when threatened. Instead, these strange creatures from the death world advanced toward them with weapons raised, showing no fear at all. What followed was a running battle through the underground tunnels, as the Marines hunted down every Vorthok installation they could find. The battle above the dying world was turning into a rout. Half the Vorthok bioships floated dead in space, their organic hulls cracked open like broken eggs. The surviving aliens were clearly trying to retreat, their perfect formations breaking apart as individual ships fled in different directions. Admiral Kim watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction, but something bothered him. The Vorthok weren't just running randomly, they seemed to be heading toward specific jump points, as if they had predetermined escape routes planned. "Communications, are you still monitoring their transmissions?" he asked. The officer nodded and put the alien chatter through the speakers. The voices were no longer the confident chorus they had heard before. Now they sounded panicked, desperate, but still coordinated. "Retreat pattern 7 initiated. Proceed to feeding grounds 12 through 37. New prey species requires different approach. Collective will adapt and return with greater numbers." Commander Choi Soyang looked up from her station with alarm. "Admiral, our computer is translating those coordinates. Feeding grounds 12 through 37, those are inhabited star systems. Dozens of them." Kim felt ice in his veins as the full scope of the threat became clear. This wasn't just about the Zalani. The Vorthok were a plague that moved from system to system, consuming entire civilizations. If they escaped, they would simply find new victims to terrorize and devour. "All ships, this is Admiral Kim," he announced over the fleet comm. "Change of mission parameters. We're not letting any of them leave this system alive." What followed was a systematic hunt through the outer system as human ships tracked down every fleeing Vorthok vessel. The aliens had never faced an enemy like this one that refused to let them retreat to fight another day. Most species in the galaxy fought according to ancient rules of warfare, allowing defeated enemies to surrender or withdraw. Humans had different rules. Captain Yoon Ju-yoon's destroyer caught the last group of bioships trying to hide in an asteroid. "Field Admiral, that's the final cluster. 3 ships attempting to power up their jump drives. Make sure they don't succeed," Kim replied quietly. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, Dr. Beijuan was working frantically with the few surviving Zalani medical personnel. They had rescued nearly 2,000 people from the underground tunnels, but many were in critical condition from breathing the poisoned air. "The atmospheric processors are shutting down," she reported to the fleet. "We can start the restoration, but it's going to take months." 6 months after the battle, the Zalani homeworld was beginning to look alive again. The yellow poison clouds had cleared from the atmosphere, replaced by the soft blue skies that had once made this planet famous throughout the galaxy. In the rebuilt capital city, Human engineers worked alongside Zilani architects to construct buildings that blended both cultures' designs. Dr. Bei Juan stood in the main hospital, watching human and Zilani medical staff treat patients together. The collaboration had produced incredible breakthroughs. Human durability research combined with Zilani healing techniques was saving lives that neither species could have helped alone. "Doctor, we have another success story," announced Nurse Park Hyjin, leading a young Zilani child into the room. 6 months ago, this child had been barely alive in one of the Vorthok breeding pods. Now he was running around, laughing with the human children whose families had stayed to help with reconstruction. The political changes across the galaxy had been even more dramatic than the medical ones. The betting pools that alien species had been running during the crisis had backfired spectacularly. When news spread that humans had not only saved the Zilani, but completely eliminated a threat that could have consumed dozens of worlds. The galaxy's opinion shifted overnight. Ambassador Li Sujin read the latest diplomatic reports from her office in the new embassy building. "The Altarians want to sign a mutual defense treaty," she told Admiral Kim during their weekly briefing. "The Corellians are offering to share their jump drive technology. Even the proud Centaurians are asking if we'd be interested in joint military exercises." Admiral Kim looked out the window at the mixed crews of humans and Zilani, working together to repair the orbital defense platforms. "What about the Galactic Council? They've officially invited Earth to join as a permanent member, with full voting rights." The Zilani delegate seconded the motion unanimously. The most surprising development had come 3 weeks earlier, when the Zilani Republic's parliament voted overwhelmingly to request membership in the Terran Federation. It would be humanity's first alien member state, but polls showed that 95% of Zilani supported the decision. "We trust humans," their prime minister had explained to the galactic media. "When everyone else watched us die, they came to save us. When they could have left us to rebuild alone, they stayed to help. This is what real friendship looks like." The formal ceremony took place in the rebuilt council chambers, with representatives from across the galaxy watching via hologram.